Good morning, Charles. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm fantastic
I didn't answer your
oh,
question. I'm great,
oh,
thank you.
oh yeah. That's a good point. I'm fantastic. I'm excited because I don't get to just talk to you today. We get to talk to another person. We haven't had an interview for quite a while now, so I'm
Yeah, that's
excited.
true. Yeah, let's cut the nonsense. Our friend Kurt is on the podcast with us today to talk about his experience, well, in life and in reading the book we told him to read.
Why has nobody told me this before? Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm excited. So, yeah, I just want to say to our listeners, you know, I don't make the rules, but Dan and I are interesting people, so we have interesting friends, and
And then we know Kurt.
Yeah, so, well, yeah, we have interest and boring acquaintances. Not Kurt's not one of those. But yeah, so we're gonna talk to Kurt a little bit about his life and his experience reading one of the books we recommended and just finished covering on the podcast, and we'll see what other tidbits work their way out. So, good morning, Kurt. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. Love what you guys are doing. I just wanted to say that you guys seem to do this like fish to water.
Thank you.
Really proud of you guys. I don't mean to sound condescending because of our relationship.
Not at all. I take that compliment all day long, Kurt.
Yeah,
from you.
No, it's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I find myself waiting every Monday to wait for the next download. So
I find myself waiting every Monday morning at 4 a.m. to hurry up and edit it and upload it so that you can get it at 5.
I appreciate that. Yep.
Listen, absolutely. I'm going to take those compliments all day long from you, Kurt. You know, your mom being a therapist, and then also, your accomplishments in life. You know, that's absolutely, it is not. I don't take it as condescending at all. It is absolutely a compliment. And every time we hang out, and you're like, oh, you said this on the podcast, or I'm going through this book with you. That's a huge compliment to me anyway. I don't know what Charles thinks about it, but anyway, I really appreciate it. So, I mean, thank you.
I'm not even familiar with the idea of taking a compliment as condescending. I assume every compliment anyone ever gives me is completely warranted and
negative attention is still good.
Well deserved.
Yeah. Is there another kind of compliment other than well deserved? I've never experienced that.
I believe constructive might be one of them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I had this morning before our podcast, I had a couple thoughts about the podcast and about my relationship with Kurt over the years. And one of the ones was I was thinking back to how Kurt found out that we had a podcast, which was we were sitting drinking at Mather's, and there were a couple of young ladies there. That's right. And one of them asked Dan, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Well, I'm in tech, but I also have a podcast." And I was like, "Oh my God, no, I'm not ready for this yet." We were like 10 episodes in, and we hadn't told anybody about it at that point. And then Dan just springs it on the group of people gathered there, and Kurt and his brother Richard were like, "What? You have a podcast?"
There were probably a lot of emotions like, what?
A lot of confusion. A lot of confusion.
That's awesome. And we weren't included in what?
My favorite follow-up question is always about what?
Did I say that, or are you just saying that?
So many people have. I don't remember if you were one of them or not, but I think somebody definitely that night said that. About what?
I think you have a bigger eye roll talking about it now than they did when they asked about it. So yeah, just as a heads up.
Yeah. Then the other thought I had. So I originally met Kurt through a mutual friend of ours, Jamie, and there was a really cool craft beer bar in Orange City near where we lived that had. I mean, they even had flavors that I like drinking, and that's saying a lot because I'm not a big beer fan. But they had a very nice trivia scene on was it Monday nights or Tuesday nights? I think it was Monday nights.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, what did we do yesterday? You're talking about the draft. It was the draft house.
It was a draft house, and they had cool staff. They had decent beer, and they had a good trivia night. Although the trivia host did talk too long between questions, which always immediately we bonded over our frustration. Like, just get to the next question. And I mean, after a couple of weeks of me showing up to join you guys, our team basically turned into the '96 Chicago Bulls, where everybody was really bummed out to see us walk through the door because.
And we all know that was you, Charles. That was you. Basically, we'd contribute 25%, and you'd have 70%.
I'm not saying it was just me, but and I'm not even saying it was mostly me. But if other people do, I won't argue with them. But yeah, we would walk in there, and sometimes just the margins of victory were I mean, it was embarrassing for me, much less the other teams, how badly we excelled at trivia, because back then it was all general knowledge trivia with a lot of different topics. And now every time you try to look up a trivia night someplace, it's always The Office or Disney or Star Wars or something. Yeah, I hate it. Where general knowledge is where I really shine, because I know a little bit about everything.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Because you're going to have the people who are like, if it was Star Wars, diehard Star Wars fans.
Exactly.
Like, you know, how much octane does a X-wing fighter
the
take?
Worst, exactly. The worst is trying to have those in Orlando because of the theme parks. There are all the Star Wars nerds have jobs at Disney now, and they show up at trivia night and blow everybody away.
Or Harry Potter. That's a big one.
Exactly. Yes.
Hundreds of people.
Yeah, we went to I forget, it was at the Brass Tap, back when it was Brass Tap. We went there one night for Disney or Harry Potter trivia or something. And there were so many people there that we had to bring blankets to sit on the lawn like in front of it, because there were like 350 people showed up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think it was, I don't remember if it was Disney or Harry Potter, but Ariel was the only one that knew hardly anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then she would get a question wrong and think it was actually right, and then go argue with the host about why she was right, which I respect. Obviously, that's my signature move.
Really uncomfortable, but respect.
Absolutely. Yeah, we started just going to trivia, and then Kurt and Richard told me about, his brother Richard told me about Mathers, and how there was this cool bar in downtown Orlando that didn't have loud music and you could dress up to go to. And I was like, I'll be there. Tell me the time and place. And so we started hanging out there, and then the rest is history, as they say. And then I introduced Dan to this group to dilute the quality just a little bit, so we wouldn't get too high and mighty.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Welcome. So how long ago was that, Dan, that you started hanging out with the boys?
Regularly, probably maybe about a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. I mean, I had met them years ago, a couple of times when we had gone out, but they didn't like me at that point, so we didn't really continue to hang out. And then
too masculine, too good looking.
Right.
I mean, this is disgusting.
Yeah, we all know you can't devote serious time to your masculine friendships until you experience a breakup.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Right. Fall back.
Yeah. That's how it goes.
And and the key is balancing it. Now that I'm back in a relationship, and that's something that I've had a problem with, where my friends, even growing up when I was younger from home, I'd get into relationships and I'd lose a lot of connection. I just wouldn't spend time. I wouldn't dedicate time to, fostering and preserving these friendships, kind of taking them for granted. And I mean, fortunately, most of my friends tolerated that and welcomed me back when I broke up with somebody. So I've been very lucky with that. But that's something that, actually through this podcast and some of the books that we're reading and that you've recommended, Charles, too, is it really kind of helped me, kind of put in priority in terms of, hey, listen, the reason why I'm so attracted to or attractive to these other, to my partner, to these ladies, is because I have this other life. I foster friendships, these connections, and I then can, balance all of that out, and I can be my best self. So, that's you're on the mark with that, Charles, for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I see that younger guys can struggle with sometimes, where they, spend all their time at work and then playing video games alone in their house or apartment. Oof. And then it's like, why can't I find a girl? It's like, because you're not where they are.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Mrs. Right to kick in the door.
Yeah. Hopefully she's a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon and she bangs on the door one day. But if that's not happening, then you're not meeting somebody. So it's very important to build that fun, exciting life that you legitimately enjoy on your own, because it attracts friendships, business opportunities, girls. I mean, whatever. You gotta have something going on for yourself. Otherwise, people aren't going to really be interested in buying into what you're selling.
Yeah, there was one of the books that we had read, or a podcast I listened to, where somebody said basically is, when you're trying to meet people, you want to invite that woman into your life, right? You build that quality life, and you can invite her in and then share things that way. You build that on your own. And obviously, when you're with her, you continue to build that, but don't expect to just, start once you meet somebody, and that's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Let me segue into some comments right there when you
please interrupt.
About that.
Yes. Yeah.
Was one of my ultimate business Bibles is The Ultimate Sales Machine. And it really talks about establishing rapport in a business sense, but it also obviously translates to relationships. And one of the lines was in there correlating it with sales, but again, also correlating with friendships and relationships was if you want to be liked, be likable. If you want to be loved, be lovable. And then he said, if you want to be interesting, be interested.
Yeah.
And so that's work and that's effort. If you're sitting in the basement playing video games and stuff like that, who finds that interesting?
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean,
so the guys you're talking to on your headset,
it's a rhetorical,
but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and Kurt, you make a great point. Is all those things that you're talking about it requires action, right? Requires effort, and so being interested in somebody else requires thoughtfulness, action, and listening too, right? In order to, and you're
right there,
one of the things you're really good at is actually listening and, asking questions and digging in and pretending like you care. So no, actually, and so, and a lot of times, when we're exhausted or stressed from other things, the last thing we have is extra energy to put towards something that, isn't guaranteed to pay off either. Right. So, but those are great. Those are great little,
it does take energy. It takes a lot of energy.
It does. I remember a conversation I had with another friend who's not on the podcast today. Believe it or not, I have at least one more. And I was telling him about a date I went on. It was the first date. I met a girl on a dating app. This was probably back in mid 2017. And we met up for a drink, and then we were talking. The conversation was going well, and then we both got hungry because we sat there talking so long. So we went to a restaurant, went to this little Italian place. It was great. Went back to another bar and just basically stayed up till they closed, just having a conversation, and then walked her to her car. We stood outside of her car for another hour, talked some more, and had a very brief hug and non-passionate kiss goodnight. And I'm telling him about this, and he's like, so you're going to see her again? I was like, nah, probably not. We didn't really click. I had a great time talking to her. I learned all about, where she was from and her life and all that, but I don't think we probably won't see each other again. He's like, do you feel like it was a waste of time? I was like, no, absolutely not. I had a good time, meeting somebody that wasn't the right person for me, but I learned a lot. We exchanged a lot of ideas and information, and then we're just going to go our separate ways. And no, I don't consider that a waste at all. You can meet a new person. You can learn a lot from them. You can have a good time with them, and then just decide, yeah, they're not my kind of partner. And that was an exciting thing about dating, not knowing, when you meet somebody, if that's going to be the kind of night you have, or if you're going to have another kind of night. And all I had to do was have genuine interest in hearing what she had to say and learning things about a person that I would never have learned otherwise if we didn't go on that date. And it made me better on the next date with the next person. But that's one of the rules we talked about from Peterson's book back in the day, which is, assume that the person you're talking to knows something that you don't.
Yeah. Very open-minded for sure.
And
which is ironic coming from him, given the content of some of his recent tweets. So open-minded about some things.
I think part of what helps me, in terms of Kurt was talking about, that having that, needing that energy as well, for not just, on dates, but new experiences. And I know in the past it's been a long day. Maybe I don't feel like going out, but I try to remind myself that every time I do, there's something that, great that happens, or I learn something really interesting, and it is usable in some format to me in my life and my experience. And a lot of times I forget that, and then but if I remember that and I set my intention, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go. I'm going to stop thinking about it. I'm just going to start moving, taking action. I'm going to go and I'm going to meet them out, or I'm going to do this thing that, I don't know what's going to happen. So part of that is letting go of my, I'm going to say, arrogance, that I know exactly how the night is going to go, or that I know everything that could possibly happen. Once I kind of let go of that and realize, hey, look, I have no idea exactly what's going to happen. And it could be good. Let's just stay open to it. That sometimes gets me out that door.
Yeah. It's very rare that I I can't think of a time it's ever happened where I've had a night where, I'm tired from work, or I've, been driving a lot or whatever. And I said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to take a shower. I'm going to put on the nice clothes. I'm going to go hang out with my friends. And then at the end of the night, I'm like, man, I wish I just stayed in my bed watching Star Trek: The Next Generation reruns.
Yeah.
It never happens that way. I'm always excited, at the end of the night that I went out and I had a good time. All right. Before we get into the book and what you picked up from it, Kurt, give us a little bit of the biography. Where are you from? What was your family like? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? All that fun stuff.
Yeah. So grew up in Connecticut. Parents got divorced when I was 12. So that was a formidable experience in my childhood development, about 12 years old. After that, Dad got remarried, moved down to Florida, avoid that income tax, went to high school down there, college in Florida, and then actually went to go work for my dad. He developed some surgical instruments, so did that for a couple of years up in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. And then, pardon me, guys. So in as far as developing new surgical instruments, that was kind of this industry is with the FDA and overregulation was a little harder, and he was getting older. So ended up switching over into building materials because my ex-wife's dad was in that. And I was like, well, it'll be interesting to build homes and get into construction. And so a natural segue from surgical instruments is construction, right?
Yeah, clear. Yeah.
So I kind of learned the industry from a material side and got my contractor's license and incorporated, and been building single family residential new homes ever since. It's been like 17 years. So
what'd you do for your dad? What were you doing sales?
In sales. Yeah.
Okay,
direct sales to surgeons.
Okay,
so
cool.
I got a chance to go into surgery and watch that. So that was quite interesting. Let's say that. So
did it freak you out at all? Seeing a surgery?
I thought I would, because I hate needles and stuff like that, but it's a very clinical. So the only thing that, excuse me, bothered me was when they put the trocar through the belly button. They basically sit there and they go bam, and they pound it in.
Whoa.
And so that's like a spike that goes in because it's laparoscopic. So the scopes go through one of the trocars. And so that's the only point. I was like, and then they just make two little incisions by the gut where the scopes go in. But other than that, when you're looking at the video, the scopes take a video and it's on the screen. Outside of that, it's just looking at, TV or something like that. So
wow.
It's not really a big deal.
So how old were you when you got married?
What year is it? I always say that jokingly. 26, I think. So I was dating my ex-wife. We started dating in college. I was a sophomore. She was a freshman. So we dated for 5 years. We were married for 13. So total 18 there. I think we got divorced at the end of 06. I think you and I shared a lot of correlation in that, Charles, between.
Yeah. We were married we married at about the same age, and we were married for about the same time. And
both no kids. Yeah.
Both no kids. And we both born in Connecticut.
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah. I was I tell people I hail from Yale because I was born at the hospital there and I've never been back.
Yes. Yeah, I was born on the opposite end. That's kind of the sticks out there. You're by the city. So
I like to tell people I'm what's known as a Yale guy. And then if I ever have kids and they go there, I'll tell people that they're a legacy.
Yeah, there you go.
Not and then we'll sit in the background with a stoic face, like trying to bite our lip and not laugh.
We know what that really means. So you guys, and so you've been a single man for a while, at least an unmarried man for a while.
Yeah, unmarried. So what was it? 06. And we're cordial. We don't have a relationship, but it was amicable. So was in a couple of relationships for about a year and a half between that time. Just got out of a short one. So, but other than that, been single.
Yeah. What's the dating scene like for you? What's your experience as a gentleman in his mid-40s?
I don't know how to really answer that. I'm a little how do we say, not restricted in what I say
on account of the court orders.
Yeah, right. Something like that. But obviously not using any names or anything, but it's actually not bad. I don't do dating apps at all. I think all of us have had those conversations. Everybody's different. I don't do that at all because the sense of going out on a date and meeting somebody the first time. I'm like, that's skipping a couple of steps in the evolutionary dating process for me. So that's why I like to organize a lot of group things, attend group things, because you can slowly dip your foot in the water and talk to somebody for 2 minutes. Richard likes to joke a lot of time about, somebody says, man or woman says, I can't find anybody good today. I was like, well, we'll talk to you for 2 minutes and we'll tell you what the problem is. A conversation with somebody for 2 minutes, like, geez, not a fit. And now I don't have to go out on a date with them.
Yeah.
And so, organizing group events and stuff like that. We do the beach things, and, obviously I do the run groups. You can get a very good testament, whatever word you want to say, of somebody's, how you get along with them. And just in a conversation like that, briefly, there's no obligation. There's plenty of people to talk to. And so, it's spread out. Anybody with social anxiety can space themselves out. It's a public place and stuff like that. So it's really good.
That's so interesting to think about, because when I think about what it's like when the three of us, or us and a couple other friends, Andy and Richard, and hang out, it's like the way that you, and to a lesser degree Dan even, can just have a conversation with a stranger just blows my mind. Like, I have no problem matching a girl on a dating app and, meeting them in, at a bar or restaurant for the first time, and then just jumping into a date with them. But the idea of, even if a girl like comes up to me and says, or us, and talks about, the fact that we're wearing suits, or remarks on the fact that you and Richard are twins, like, I just stand there with my hands in my pockets and I just can't say anything, where you guys are able to do that at a level that I don't understand. But then just meeting a stranger for the first time on a date, like, doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Mm-hmm. That is fascinating. Because I'm processing as you're saying it. I'm like, it's more, in your sense, I'm thinking about it as you're talking about. For me, that's more of a confined, forced obligation. And it's like book report, like, oh, I forgot what I was going to say, twiddling my thumbs. Whereas a stranger, I can always sort of find a filament of rapport to establish, like, depending on the circumstance, how we interacted, either it's a compliment or an article of clothing, or at Mathers, hey, do you guys come here often? Or they're asking about, what's that pin on your suit? Or why do you guys always dress up?
Yeah.
And, we have so there's always one filament of rapport. And that's the part about being interesting to be interested, is if you can find one filament of rapport. And that's kind of a rule I have for myself, is if you want to be interesting, ask questions and listen. And I always try and have a process where I will always try and think of 3 questions to ask to get that person rolling.
Oh, nice.
And then it's like tree. If you have 3 questions, then the conversation can evolve, and you can establish a rapport that way as well. Because it's like everybody's topic of, that was another line in that book. Everybody's favorite top conversation is themselves. So let them roll. Now you do run the risk of somebody being a motor mouth and who's like, oh God.
Yeah, I heard a great line from Adam Carolla, the podcast host, where at one point he said, in his conversation, he's like, all right, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What's your favorite thing about me?
Right. Yeah. And Chet Holmes said that too. He's like, it's a Hollywood thing. It's like, enough about me talking about me. What do you think about me?
Exactly.
Classic line. Oh, love it.
There was a great episode of the Ricky Gervais show Extras, where his guest star for the week was Daniel Radcliffe, and on that show all these celebrities would play like a fictionalized version of themselves, and Daniel Radcliffe was, I don't know, maybe 17 or 18 years old at the time, and so his opening line that he would use on people would be, all right, so we both know who I am, what's your name? And my goal with this podcast is just to get famous enough that I can say that to people.
Yeah. And that's labeling the obvious, right? It's like,
exactly.
when you hit that head on, it's like, yep, we're addressing it. So nice.
The other line I was watching an old episode of the TV show Community, where the main character, played by Joel McHale, is a very good looking, charismatic guy. And he shows up for, a dance or a
like
prom.
you?
Well, I mean, I'm again, it would be rude for me to say that,
but you'll take the compliment.
But I am going to steal this line. He showed up for like, some dumb prom or dance that they had at the community college. And a girl said to him, "Oh, look at you. You clean up real nice." And he's like, "Oh, come on. I'm always good looking."
I'm totally taking that one. That's fantastic. I love it.
Because the way we dress up when we go out, people will often say something along the lines of, "You clean up well." It's like, "Oh, come on. I'm always good looking."
Very passive aggressive way to tell somebody to F off, right?
I know. I love it. Another one. Speaking of that, my favorite was from remember in The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner.
Absolutely.
The girl comes up to him and says, I've been watching you from across the bar all night," and he goes, "Why don't you go back and keep watching?"
Yep. Remember that like it was yesterday. You're like, ooh,
ouch.
I feel you, sister.
Good stuff. All right, so that covered where you grew up and where you went to school, your relationship. So your mom is a therapist, and
yep.
What's that like growing up with that right there in the house? I imagine it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Well, it's like Richard says when somebody says, "What's it like being a twin?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. I've never not been a twin."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, extremely helpful. Obviously, it's not like people might think like, well, what do you think about this, or what's on your mind?
Let's explore that.
What's that?
Let's explore that.
Yeah. Like, I just don't have the energy. I end up calling her more often, so I get a free session. But
have you guys seen Big Bang Theory with Leonard's mom, who's a therapist? I'm wondering if you're thinking.
I don't think so.
Okay, so her mom is like a cold, like very cutthroat, like type of relationship with her son. So my dad's a therapist, and it's probably similar. We weren't like subjects of experiments by any means. So anyway, go ahead, Kurt.
It does help, right? They'll guide you, hopefully, if they're good.
Right.
In your case, paternalistic. My mom's very maternalistic.
Yep, exactly.
In that sense, almost it's like I discount her because, well, your mom, you're supposed to say that, so she's a clinical psychologist. She specializes in child psychology, usually child sexual abuse in a lot of those cases. And
that's got to be grueling work. I mean, fulfilling, but exhausting.
I was thinking about this before. There are several professions that you equate. I would never do that. My line is I'd rather shovel horse shit, excuse me for the expression, but it's like, okay. No, not a chance. And so, those, I can't imagine doing that, but she's a member of BACA, which is Bikers Against Child Abuse. So she does a lot of work, charity work on that too.
Oh, that's awesome.
So anyways, I was tangent flagged off there, but
does she also own a motorcycle?
Absolutely. She had 2 Harleys. So
oh, really?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
She's turning 80 this year. So she's probably not going to ride as much, but she's still a whippersnapper. She's a firecracker.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Really proud of her. She was actually the what's the keynote speaker when you do the speaker at like a graduation? What is that?
Oh, commencement
speaker at her community college. So that was I was really proud of her. She had a good wit. So she's a testament of, if I may, that it doesn't matter how old you are. What do you want to be when you grow up? I think she got her PhD when she was 50.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Just as a testament to those out there, it's never too late. So especially in that field, using your mind. So, but it's been a real asset, obviously, to bounce stuff off her. Obviously, I have my own therapist. I get to double up, but I talk to her almost a couple of times a week, because I do run groups. So when I drive home, I'll catch up with her and discuss relationships. So it's a lot more maternalistic than it is therapeutic, but it is. So I'd say, call it a 60-40, maybe 70-30 in the maternalistic side. So,
I mean, but, I can't imagine that, she's, same thing probably with my dad is you don't turn off that knowledge and experience when you're talking to when you're talking to, your son or somebody else, it's probably a very experienced, wise, between her education and her age, that type of, relationship. Sure. It's not right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah.
All right, let's if it's cool with you, let's get into the book a little bit. So last week was our final episode on Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before, which I still tell people this is the most practical self-help book I've ever read, because it's like every single chapter and section is like, here's a problem. If you're a human, you probably have experienced this, and here's what you can do to make it better. And so whenever, anybody asks me for any advice on pretty much anything, one of my first answers is read this book. And, based on what you're telling me is bothering you, I would start with section 5 and then go back and read the whole thing, or section whatever. What's been your experience reading it, Kurt? What did you find valuable on it? And are there any of the processes or recommendations for it that you're finding a way to integrate?
I was actually mentioning this to Dan. So I went through the book twice, and nice. Like what you said, there's a lot of systematic approach to helping people, peel back. I call it peeling back the layers of the onion for your emotions, and especially how that affects and contributes to your relationships. And so what I was mentioning to Dan before was, it was almost like an atomic bomb went off in my head on chapter 35 in relationships when, and I'm just jumping way ahead, everybody. Yeah. So there's obviously several 35, 36, 37 chapters, but that one stuck in my head so poignantly, if I may. So we're talking about, I believe it was Gottman, and talking about, and this is, I'm just summarizing, so correct me if my statistics aren't wrong. The number that stuck out to me because of my brain and how it works when they say statistics, 70% of good relationships or something to that effect are developed within the friendship. So wasn't that it? Something like 70% of successful relationships have a strong friendship.
Right.
I think that was a statistic, but that's not verbatim. And that was like a bomb that went off in my head as far as knowledge, because for my own concepts, as far as relationship, I developed in my own head what I've talked about is the relationship totem pole. And where that starts out as either a stranger, acquaintance, friend, good friend, best friend relationship, so on and so forth. So in thinking about it that way, that helps me formulate my ideas. And so everybody in our life may only be capable of going up so high on the friendship totem pole.
Right.
And when we elevate them to a certain point, the expectations go up and they might not fulfill that. And maybe that's where relationships or friendships dissolve. And so I was correlating that with also dating. And if they're saying 70% of good relationships are developed within that friendship totem pole in dating, and I'm guilty of it, we go from acquaintance, we meet somebody, don't take that time to develop that 70% area. We go from acquaintance, skip all the way around that 70%, go right to relationship. And we miss that necessity, I guess we would say, to develop that friendship. And ultimately, what seems like in my case, where those relationships dissolve because we didn't develop that part. So anyways, that was really the poignant part that right now, even to this day, I even listened to that one a couple of times because it was so poignant to me, and how important that is to take your time, especially in our relationships and developing and dating and stuff like that, to pay attention and take your time and develop that. So.
Yeah. So, Kurt, you talked about how much you really appreciated the foundation of friendship. And I'm seeing kind of a similarity, and you let me know, where I feel like you are, your background, your success has been in building relationships from, working doing sales. You had to develop relationships with people, when you do the medical sales. Now, building homes, you've got so many different relationships that you need to nurture and take care of. And so I feel, it sounds to me, that success must mean that you're really good at building those relationships. And it looks like you're kind of translating that into your personal life, because you are often organizing large groups of people, large events to, meet people in person. And I to me, it seems like, you're kind of living, you're continuing to set yourself up for success by doing that, because you are then using your skills in terms of, getting to know people in person. So rather than going on the dating apps, right? Or, just being able to evaluate people. So I feel like your tendency to bring lots of people together and communicate with people, that actually is something that you just do. And it's obvious you do it naturally and you enjoy it, and it's nice to see, because that's something that I've always wanted to get better at. And so I think that's probably, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you are so good at that, you don't need these dating apps, because you can actually get a better sense of meeting people in person, and your intuition picks up on, hey, this is somebody I want to get to know a little bit better, or this is somebody that's not really for me. Am I close on that?
Yeah, I would say in the sense that, so I'm trying to think of how to answer this. So really it comes from, I was deathly bashful when I was a little boy.
That's crazy to think that.
Talking to my mom now, about
it. There's no way.
Yeah, I was talking to my previous relationship about it. I hate being bashful. I was talking to somebody, my previous relationship, about it, and it was so visceral when I thought about it. So I've had to work tremendously hard. And my mom talked about it. When I was talking to her about this, she was like, oh my goodness, it was so painful. Because when we were little boys doing gymnastics, she would literally have to sit in the room for about 2 weeks. And then for the next 2 weeks, she could sit in the waiting room, but I had to know she was there. And then after a month or something like that, she would, she could move into the, she didn't have to be there, but it was a process. Wow. And I just remember being young, and to this day, I hate it, and I have to work very hard. So fellas, give me 1 second. Yeah. I've got a robot vacuum going off. So
no worries.
All right. Well, we'll kill some time while he's gone, Dan. I actually was the exact same way when I was a little kid, where, if I went to any kind of a school activity or an extracurricular activity, my mom had to be right there in the room too, because I was just so afraid of talking to or interacting with strangers. I was the same way. And
I did not know that.
And It's weird how, and the ways that we're different now, where again, I can't just start a conversation with a stranger at a bar because it freaks me out. But I'll get on stage in front of a few hundred people, 1,000 people, and do a presentation or do some comedy, and it doesn't bother me the slightest. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the idea of like a one-on-one conversation with a person I just met freaks me out.
I'm the exact opposite.
Yeah, that's, and it's interesting. We all have our, public speaking to me is me too. But seeing a crowd of 100 people at a run club fires my synapses of excitement. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, so, and some of the run groups. And so working towards these utter feelings of bashfulness, at some of the run groups, say, hey, is anybody new? There's 60, 70 people there, and people raise their hands. So I try and make a point to introduce myself, to create that filament so people feel accepted, because I know what that's like, standing there being like this, and I abhor it. So,
I heard something really interesting from the comic Whitney Cummings years ago. I think she was on an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, and she was talking about how, everybody knows that fear of public speaking is like an almost universal thing, where it's very rare that somebody just, is born not caring about talking in front of, which is one of the many reasons I'm exceptional. But her theory that she got from someone else was this idea that if you go back to human evolution and look at our experience, most of our software is still based on the hunter-gatherer mindset that we had, 10,000, 20,000 years ago. The only time a human would be required to engage in public speaking was if you did something horrible to your tribe and they were considering kicking you out and leaving you in the wilderness to live on your own until you died. Wow. And so you would have to get in front of your tribe and convince them that you still had a place in the tribe. And so that's why our built-in anxiety to public speaking is what it is.
That's fascinating. I did not know that.
Isn't that interesting?
That's really interesting. But it lines up. It makes sense, right? If you think about it.
Most people say they fear it more than death. And,
right. I've heard that many times.
And that's the reason, because it's so closely related to death. The idea that, once you don't have your tribe support anymore, you're just off on your own until you die.
Yeah, you are vulnerable up there, by yourself, right? I mean, that is, you're physically vulnerable. And then, knowing mentally that you're talking there, that, mentally, you're feeling vulnerable as well. So
yeah,
that's tough.
you're up there trying to earn their approval. And the stakes are, if I don't earn their approval, I die.
Yeah.
Wow. So come to my next show.
Yeah, I was going to say, that word vulnerability. We could have 2 more podcasts just on that and men in relationships.
Oh yes.
We will. Well, we're gonna get there. For sure.
I mean, it almost. I mean, vulnerability really runs. Is like a river that runs through every conversation with masculinity and mental health, because that is the. I would say, the biggest problem. One could say the biggest I've said this before. The biggest problem our world has is men who are afraid of rejection, or men who get rejected and don't know how to deal with that rejection. That leads to almost every problem that the world has. You could credit back to a man wanted something, he didn't get it, and then the way he acted after not getting it is what has ruined the world.
Boy, if that is not, when you literally think about it, it is to a T. It's like, wow, maybe we just need some more hugs in the early childhood development.
And I mean, we need lessons of, moms and dads telling their sons that, hey, it's okay to want something so bad with all your heart, and then when you don't get it, you'll survive and you'll be able to move on to wanting the next thing. And that is the lesson that I think the world needs, that you can survive wanting something, you can be honest about it, you cannot get it, and you're still going to be okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point, for sure.
And maybe as a side note to that, being able to express vulnerability without reprisal or being, I don't know the right word, castigated or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's the old bottle it up type syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary when you're willing to put all on the line and say, I want this career, I want this person, I want this whatever, and you go on record and everybody knows that you want it, and then everybody watches you not get it, and the shame that comes with that, and it's rough, man. It's not something that you will just learn on your own how to deal with. You've got to have somebody who teaches you, okay, here's how to accept that, and here's how to deal with that. Because I mean, the ability to deal with that and to essentially regulate your emotions after something terrible like that happens, after you put everything into getting something and then you don't get it. I mean, the ability to deal with that is maybe the strongest tool you can put in your toolbox, but you're not going to find it by accident. You're not going to find that tool on the side of the road.
No, but you will find it in this book. So there's
very nice. Whoa, that was super professional.
It really was. It really was.
Take a marketing class for that one?
It really, and the nice thing is, it does. The book, the way it's structured, it does play into our short attention span. So these chapters are really short. The tools are, I mean, each of them has a valuable tool. And as Charles said, is you can go right to one of the sections of one of the chapters and figure out, okay, this applies to me, it doesn't apply to me. And everybody goes through things differently, feels things differently. But what's nice is you can probably most likely find, what you're going through in here. And she gives you like a quick and easy method to deal with it immediately or very, very shortly. And so I think that's, and this and other books that we're going through on the podcast, I think that is, one of our missions is just, present it, make it more accessible, like raise people's awareness that these things are out there if you're looking for them and you want that help. And that is, I feel, going to give you a better result, helping you manage what you're dealing with.
And to your point there, the book is what a de facto mentorship. And what Charles was saying is, I couldn't put too fine a point on it having, in my case, especially professional mentorship. I never really had that. And then, so I couldn't imagine what that would have been like to have that professional mentorship. But also, obviously, what we're talking about here is personal, whether it's I'm fortunate enough that I have a professional therapist and a professional mom therapist. So on that side, I've been extremely fortunate, but for other people, and you guys have talked about that quite a bit. Any preconditions or about having a therapist? It's like you get maintenance on your car.
Right. Exactly.
Hell, wouldn't you get? This is your mind. What you're kind of alluding back to what you talked about, Charles, is like most of the world's major problems were done by people who didn't have personal mentorship and a therapist.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think people and guys can get caught up in is you don't need a mentor that has absolutely everything together and they're the perfect human being and you can just look to them for everything and just want to be exactly like them. If you know a guy in your friendship or acquaintance circle that has a career you want, make him your career mentor. If you've got a guy in your circle that has a relationship with his wife that you think, man, I'd like to be that kind of husband, then make him your relationship mentor. But if you paralyze yourself by thinking, oh, I can't find one guy or gal that has the whole thing together, so I'm not going to bother, that you're really missing out big time. Just find somebody that has these different areas of their life.
Find 10.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, whatever that thing is that you would like to have, then, make that person your mentor. And, you don't even have to have a formal conversation about it. You just have to hang out with them when you can and watch how they do things. And then just, like a gin rummy hand, you discard the cards you don't like and you keep the ones that you do. And you'll be able to keep building your life better and better by learning from the people around you.
It's the classic. We see this around a lot of times is get advice from people who are where you want to be. Right. Dave Ramsey says, I don't take dieting advice from fat people. I don't take financial advice from broke people. Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, absolutely. And and you're not stuck with feel free to throw some of the bathwater out without getting rid of the baby when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. This book has helped me sort of reframe some of that as well, as far as, just being able to, there are a lot of people on, the internet and, audio books and, we've had mixed reviews on therapy apps, but there's a wealth of information out there where you can start working on your mental health today and start making it better today with very low investment of time or money. And just try these things out and try to get your stuff together, because a life of chaos and desperation is no way to go.
Yeah,
agreed.
All right,
anybody have anything else?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming week that all of us have, because I know for sure Dan and me are pretty busy, and Kurt is gonna. It starts really tomorrow night with the we're doing the Guys with Ties White Party, which is about clothing, not skin tone or ethnicity, just to put that out there. We're going to a party where everybody's going to dress in white, slightly off white in the case of my linen pants, but still white.
The old linen, yes, sir.
And that's going to be a fundraiser for, I believe, the Mustard Seed this time, which is a food bank here in the Orlando area, where folks who are having trouble affording food, which is certainly a concern right now, because is food getting expensive.
I think it's also for household furnishings and clothing as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they take furniture and stuff like that as well. I believe I had them come pick something up when I was moving out of my house and downsizing into my RV. I think I couldn't find anybody who was willing to drive out to my house to get, I think it may have been my piano. And I think they came.
Really?
I think they came and got it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was years ago. But they will take furnishings and all sorts of good stuff. And they've had a great reputation in this town for a decade plus of helping people.
Yeah, that's why I like the Guys with Ties, events, because a lot of them are local charities. So I feel good be able to be part of the community and support that as well.
Yeah, my standard operating procedure used to be to go in with you guys on a VIP table, but now that I don't drink, I just am not willing to waste the money.
Yeah, well, I quit drinking too, so I had never drank in a couple of months. So that was a holdover, personal choice, and so I just still got the VIP table. So it's Dan and Rich are going to be getting hammered. No, we just invite other of our friends. Each got a bottle in your hand.
Yeah, I was thinking about it this morning in the shower that for 2022 I gave up both creamer in my coffee and alcohol, and adjusting to black coffee has been so much harder than not drinking alcohol.
That's hysterical.
Oh, really?
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was really a matter of ease and convenience, not having to carry my own creamer along with me because it's the kind that I like, and I don't want to drink, the 2% milk that whatever restaurant has or convenience store has let sit out on a shelf for however long. Now
it's not like wine.
Now, exactly. Now I just drink it black, and I don't have to worry about maintaining the health of the coffee.
Bless
creamer.
you, my son.
And it was harder of an adjustment than not drinking alcohol.
I bet.
So how long are you in, Kurt?
Let's see, at least 2 months, 2+.
Congratulations.
And how's it going?
Oh, it's easy. I if there's one thing about me, it's I have a strong willpower. It's almost a moral oath. I was hanging out with two of my friends, one of my run buddies and her boyfriend, and I said, "Oh, tonic and lime," and he thought I meant vodka because he didn't know. And I took a sip, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's got alcohol in it." It was like somebody religious and having pork. It's like, "Oh my God, get rid of this." So when you have you focused in a state of mind, it's it's not a big deal at all. The key is like, oh, now I'll try a Diet Coke or maybe a juice, or I'll ask for coffee. If it's 4 p.m., I'll be like, hey, do you guys have coffee or something like that? Cream or sugar. So
my go-to is and has been club soda for the last year. Dan and I did dry January, and then I just kept it rolling. Lately, I've been drinking a lot of Perrier, and I definitely have more of a taste for mineral water than I do for club soda. But good mineral water is hard to find, as that common expression goes.
I was thinking about what you just said right there, and it's like it's got to have bubbles in it. It's got to give the impression of something, a beverage too. But good for you, man. Good for you too. So
I'll be a year on that
wow,
that New Year's Eve party that Dan and I went to was the last time I had a drink. I did have one. I had one snafu at Shikai that night where I got a spicy scallop shot that I didn't even realize. Of course, it would come with alcohol, but it came with like some kind of sake in it. And I took it. I was like, oh wait, this is alcohol. And it really.
I guess I'm curious as to why you would order a spicy shot without alcohol. What the heck is that?
I don't know. I was distracted by scallops because that's like my favorite type of sushi. And so I saw scallop on the menu, and my brain just shut down.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
So, and then I believe, Kurt, you're having a belated birthday bash on Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
We'll call it attempt number 2. So the first time, and since we're here in Central Florida, there was a tropical depression that came through, ended up dissipating, but we're like, I don't really want to take the chance. We'll cut it early and just redo another one. So
I may attempt to make an appearance of that. Unfortunately, now that I can't drink, I can't not show up for things on Sunday and say it's because I have a hangover. Now I've got to.
You're running out of excuses.
Right.
Too much sun.
I didn't want to go.
We talked about that, right? You know what? I just have nothing better to do, and I want it to be everything I want. I'm staying home. We're like, that's fine.
Yeah, I've told people that before about when they invite me to something, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to go to that. And they're like, why are you telling me you just don't want to go to it? I was like, look, I'm doing you a favor. So now every time we hang out, it's because there's nothing else I'd rather do.
For sure. Which is interesting. I had this conversation with my mom. She always knew the answer was no.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You're like, they're waiting. Yes.
No is a complete sentence.
Yes, it is. No period. So
yep.
Yeah, that's part of what I do when I do events. And I've counseled some people on that when they set a level, they have a covert contract, which means we are setting a level of expectation. Hey, I'm having these events. You all need to come. Yeah, no, you're not. Nobody's entitled to somebody else's time. And so the premise of when I do events or something like that is, hey, we are going to be here. If you would care to join us and it would be something you're interested, we will be here at this time. We'd love to have you come. If not, next time or when we have another event, we'll make sure that you're included. Case closed.
Yeah. I mean, it does make me laugh sometimes when, somebody, not you particularly, but this has happened on some of yours where somebody will create an event on Facebook and then you'll immediately see just a waterfall of comments where people are talking about, oh, I'm going to be out of town. Oh, my kids have my gerbil has surgery that day or whatever it is. It's like, I I didn't post this so that you could tell me your excuse why.
Seriously. Oh
why
my
you're
God.
not coming. You're invited, but just the people who feel like they have this obligation where they have to say why they can't come.
Well, honestly, I didn't think about it that way. It's like, that would be the thing, in this podcast is, you weren't obligated. It's just an invitation. But sometimes I want to post on there. So I took it a different way. It's like people want to tell why they can't come. So sometimes I want to post this. Oh, I'm sorry. The jet's getting worked on in St. Moritz. I won't be able to make it. Oh. It's like, nobody cares.
Yeah, where actually, either being silent or just say, somebody invites you to something, you can say, no, but thank you so much for the invitation. Please invite me next time.
Yeah. And some people do say that. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Da, 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 da. But if I'm in that situation, I'll usually reach out privately or individually, say, hey, bud, I can't make it, or I'd like to be included next time. So, but I get what you're saying. That's a good perspective.
Yeah. Or you can just do what I do and say, oh, I hate electronic music.
Yep. And we know it's like, all right, well, totally. Because I get it too. I love EDM. I absolutely love it. And so I think Dan likes it. We know Charles is, it's like kryptonite. So
yeah, really. I mean, pretty much anything except big band music. I'm a hard no.
Yep. I get it. We all have our role. We know, it's, and like you said too, it's like, you're not going to have fun if I go.
Exactly. Yeah, because I'm the kind of big personality that if I'm not having fun, I will impact your ability to have fun too if I'm there.
You're the monkey with the cymbals, like, hey, I'm not having fun.
Yeah. Oh, this sucks. This is the worst. But so that said, see you Saturday night at the
absolutely. Yep.
Where I'm sure there will be loud music, perhaps a DJ that I don't like.
But maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
You're there for a good cause, though.
We'll have plenty of booze there for those who are drinking, and it's an open invite, because I have a table, and so we just invite people or come have a beverage, and we'll just drink We'll get extra club soda and
There you go.
Yeah, I'll be there. I am bringing my once and future girlfriend, which that'll also be another episode that I can. Get into that whole story.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, you just I'm like, wait, what does that mean?
Yeah, we'll get into that. And
then we're off to Dallas, Dan.
Yeah, podcast
That's
movement.
Awesome.
So it's our first podcast movement, and there's going to be we're going to be excited. We're going to broadcast live. Well, not going to broadcast live, but we'll be doing the show record
tape
from
tape
Dallas.
Live before an empty studio audience.
Right, exactly. So
when is that again?
Monday through Friday. I'm coming home late Friday, early Saturday, and Dan, you're coming home Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah. So
fantastic
for that. Hopefully,
I'm excited to hear what you guys learn and see. I mean, I can't imagine how many people are going to be the opportunity to get educated and learn from everybody else.
There's some big names. Mark Cuban is doing a session at this thing. So I guess
I didn't know he had a podcast.
Well, everybody has a podcast now, and it's in Dallas. So I mean, it's a short commute for him. But I was thinking, Dan, maybe we record a little something every day that we're out there and just, upload it and push it out there, or just a brief episode to talk about what we're doing. And also
that sounds great.
We'll really go crazy on our Instagram for this too, trying to, take pictures of me eating In-N-Out burger and, various activities.
Good. So so Kurt, what anything else you're looking forward to, or this next week, or
anything you want to plug?
And anything you want to plug? Where can people find you if you want them to?
I'm all over social media, of course. I do. So, I post as much as I can about my business and the homes that we have. Obviously, I'm a strong supporter of the Run community. I got really involved in that after my previous relationship. I kind of devoted myself to personal development. Ran into one of my best buddies, and she's a phenomenal runner. Just got involved in that community. So awesome. I post a lot about that and get people involved in that community because I run 5 or 6 days a week. So, I love the social aspect of it, personal development. So that's where they can find me. My name's Kurt Wettermann, as you know. So if you just type that in, aside from my arrest record, you should be able to find all of the
and it's KURT and Wettermann with 2 N's. So
correct. 2 E's, 2 T's, 2 N's. So And so, yeah, no, I appreciate you guys. This is phenomenal. I had notes of a bunch of other stuff, but we got into it so much that I'd love to have a follow up and catch up with you guys. And
we're planning on we're going to do an episode with your brother if he'll allow it, and then I would love to get the four of us in a room and do an episode.
Oh, that would be
where we could actually do it all together instead of over Zoom. I think
for sure.
I got to drop at least I don't know what, $150 on some new podcasting equipment, and I'm not made of money, but as soon as I save up and collect enough cans around the neighborhood, I will I'll buy that little 4-person podcast recorder. We could sit in a room sometime and do an episode.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. And Kurt, we'll definitely have you back for, those other things you've got there on your list. This is fantastic. Thanks for your time.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime, I hate attention. So I'm never in the front row, the first one in the run group pictures. I'm always in the back, right?
Yeah.
No, but anytime. I love what you guys are doing. Awesome. Having a mom who's a therapist and stuff like that with men's mental health, and really giving it the attention that it needs. And there's so many other little topics that we could spin off here. So I think we've got content for the next year, just BSing around with fellas. So
awesome.
Absolutely. And we, Dan and I have some new pins to hand out, and we'll be bringing some of those to the party on Saturday night. So
perfect.
3 different ones. You can pick the one you like the best, and then you can use that as if you need another conversation starter.
Absolutely. That one has brought up, what's that mean? I'm like, well, I'm glad you asked.
Awesome. All right, cool. I will talk to all you guys again in the very near future.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see you shortly, fellas. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good day, John.
Take care.
You too, bud. See you guys.
Bye.